Just want to take a moment to just really enjoy being here with you and the deep richness of coming together for retreat like this is something really special. And we get a taste of that when we meet for satsang or for a class, but in retreat that's present in a very intense way. This feeling that our bodies and minds may have never really met each other. Our bodies, maybe physically the other side of the planet. But it doesn't really matter here, does it? It doesn't matter so much that. It's more that there is something deeper that is meeting. We're showing up for each other. And there's something really divine about that. Have you noticed? Just something so fulfilling and nourishing on a soul level, being here with and for each other as we walk this path together. It's something really quite profound that every time I try to put words to, they don't really match up. But again, the words are only pointing to that. And we had an amazing day yesterday. Uh, so much love, so much openness, so much sharing. And the one thing that we can know about today is that it's going to be even more amazing than yesterday. How and why, I don't know. I just know that in manifestation, things are always moving towards more. With our focus here being on something so special, so profound, this retreat, however today unfolds, will be even more amazing than yesterday. And day 3 tomorrow, even more amazing than that, and so on. And for me, every retreat that I'm lucky enough to participate in is better than the previous one in terms of, well, again, here I touch upon that which I can't really find the words to describe, how we all meet each other, interact with each other, feel close to each other. And again, even if our bodies are thousands of miles apart, there's an immediacy of being here together now, right now. So today, I really wanted to um, focus on perhaps the most important thing, which really I'm always doing, but I wanted to really look at what it means to be awakened. What does that mean? And what does it mean to live as the loving presence? Because to me, those are the same things. To be awakened to the truth, enlightened, self-realized, whatever phrase we want to use, and to live as the loving presence. For me, that is the same. And I can only ever share from my own experience. But for me, those are synonymous. And there was also so many myths and misunderstandings for me about what awakening actually is, what it looks like when it manifests fully as a human being, and what the truth moves like, how it interacts, and that is what drew this title for this retreat. What does that mean to live as the loving presence? Does it mean that we never ever again feel a negative emotion? No, it doesn't. Does it mean that we're never gonna experience any challenges at all? Absolutely not. Life has its challenges still for me, but they're met in a different way. Does it mean that for the rest of forever, we're just going to feel bliss and peace? Who knows? But for me, what awakening has shown me is something that's really worth discussing and bringing to the forefront. Most of my time um, in teaching is spent trying to get people to see that they're already living from a very awakened place or way, in a way that's very awakened, and that we haven't really noticed that. And I did touch upon this yesterday, but I really wanted to explore it in fullness today. How would you know when you are living as a loving presence? What ideas do we have about that? And can we recontextualize that awakening into something that we can recognize on a very, very ordinary and even mundane way? Can awakening be something that is so ordinary that we might have missed that it's already happening for us? It's not about certain states, bliss is nice, but it's really not what awakening is. Really, awakening for me would have to be the absence of suffering. And that doesn't mean the absence of negative emotions or physical pain or experiences that we don't like. It's really that we're meeting them more as the presence than as a person, as someone, a seeker. And I really would like to invite you today for a retreat to be willing to see how that's already happening for you. I realized in my own journey that I had an amazing ability to delude myself if I thought I wasn't waking up to the truth. And then I would have this very narrow vision and experience of myself that nobody else was actually seeing. Everyone else was seeing something really different than I was seeing about myself. And even when they were telling me this, I was so resolute in the insistence, determined to believe that it wasn't working for me, that I wasn't waking up. That it's really only when some experiences happened that I really did not want, and that my emotional response to those experiences was so intense, despair and outrage and anger and sadness, and you know those experiences where there's so many emotions at once that you can't even feel. It's just this where our system is just completely flooded with emotion. And it was only when it got to that point, and at that point, in that moment where this really bad thing was happening and my emotions were just completely all over the place, that I actually noticed something, that I could not resist those emotions anymore. It's not that I was choosing not to, there was nothing left within me that could resist these emotions, and there was so much. And we felt this, when we want to go this way and life goes this way, and we get the complete opposite of what we expect. We're so sure this is where I'm heading, and then life says, no, this way. When those moments where something is fundamentally changed about your life, And of course, there's a emotional response to that. Angry, I was angry at life, angry at everyone, terrified, and hopeless. Felt helpless to do anything about it, despairing. And then I went through phases of being apathetic. This is all within an hour of finding out this bad news, and apathetic in a way to protect myself. There's just no point even trying anymore, that kind of really low frequency. But even as all of this was going on, there was something within me that felt very much like me, which was surprising, that could not push against any of it. And even more strangely than that, actually wanted to go towards it. Like, what is this rich human experience, the richness of it, even though it was awful and I would never want to go through it again? Something not only didn't try to turn away, but wanted to turn towards, like, what is it like now to go through something like this? And you don't have to wait for one of these big horrible moments. They don't have to happen. If we're paying attention to the fact that awakening might actually already be deeply, deeply in progress, deeply succeeding. And that when we actually look, if we're willing to look rather than have life push us into it, which that was the only option life had for me because I was so stubborn and totally sure I was right, that I was failing at awakening, that nothing had changed for me actually. I was so determined to look at the emotions I was feeling in that moment and the bad thing that was happening as evidence of my failure to recognize and embody the truth. That it never once occurred to me until that moment that it might be how I'm meeting that moment rather than what that moment entailed, but how I'm meeting it that is the important thing. And something shifted upon that recognition that actually awakening is completely different than I had thought it was and it is. Maybe it was not about getting rid of all negative emotions and only having positive thoughts and only feeling bliss and only experiencing abundance. But actually, how am I meeting what is right now? Like, well, how am I approaching that? Am I allowing the deeper place of presence to actually experience from that deeper place of presence? What is that like? Both in the best of our human moments and the worst. You know, when you lose a loved one, or when someone betrays you, or you lose your job even though you've been promised a promotion. What is that like from presence? And that is something that we can all begin to look at. Yesterday in retreat, there were so many brave sharings, hands going up and mouths speaking things that were obviously uneasy to express. Times when it would have been easier to keep hand down and not share. And even when that sharing happens, still there might be some nerves or some uncomfortableness, and mind is probably speaking after you finish sharing in satsang, or mind is saying, you really messed that up. You're going to look like a fool, or whatever that is. But somehow something still has to move to meet this moment, to acknowledge an emotion, or to say what wants to be said, or to ask the question that's burning inside. So there's an opportunity to recognize that in any moment, there are always two motivations happening, two ways of being happening for us. The first, we know it so well. We know that which wants to avoid, resist, procrastinate, judge ourselves, and hide. Stay safe, stay small, stay in my little comfort zone. And then there is that which is authentic and wants to meet exactly whatever is. That is what has been moving to the forefront without you noticing. Maybe you're starting to notice, or maybe you have noticed, in which case, really well done. How we've been with each other here in retreat already this first day, yesterday. It's a true family, and that word, for me, I never really understood it until I had a Sangha family. I mean, I love my biological family, of course. They love me, and we've been through our ups and downs and challenges like every human relationship. But to be with a family where you can express exactly whatever is happening for you right now with no fear of judgment at all from others, and knowing that only support is going to come back. There's something indescribably amazing about that. And it is, again, evidence of how deeply our awakening is already succeeding. And that is the presence moving to the forefront, whether we realize it or not. It's not necessarily going to feel blissful or peaceful even sometimes. Peace comes when we don't resist what is, when we have formed the habit through choosing again and again. What is it like to turn towards this thing, not away from it? Has turning away from it really worked in order to bring me peace and joy? No. Never did for me. I don't know about you guys, but it only made it worse, actually. And so how we're being with each other here in retreat, what I've seen already, and how we're being with what's arising for us. When I see that, I can only see the presence speaking. That's not something a separate self, a person, would do. And even if you never raise your hand or speak to me here throughout retreat, still, I feel you, I know you, I am you, you are me. And awakening happens in such a sneaky way, really, it sneaks in there through the back door. We're busy watching the front door, right? Like when your Amazon delivery is like 5 stops away, you're waiting for it. Not quite here yet. Meanwhile, there's something sneaking in the back door, the presence. And it's the tiniest moments, the tiniest and most ordinary ways that we begin to notice something really profound is changing for me. I could actually be with this fear, this emotion a little bit more today. I actually didn't resist this thing quite as much. I reached out for help a little bit faster than I normally would. I forgave myself for saying that thing that I always say when I'm angry to that person that I always say it to. Forgave myself a little quicker. I apologized to that person much quicker than I usually would. Even though I was scared, I did that thing that I really didn't want to do. We've seen it here already with some amazing Sangha hosts that are hosting for their first time and doing such an amazing job. It's really quite profound. It really is. And there are 100 little ways that presence is making itself known. And are we going to stop and notice that? Are we going to keep chasing down the road of seeking? How is your life different for you today? How are you meeting self-judgment when it arises? Even, someone sharing here in retreat and they have a breakthrough or something, and your mind says immediately that thing that it says, which something for me was always something like, see, they're getting it, but you're not. I'm never going to get it. And even when that happens, can you show up to even self-judgment from presence? Absolutely. And yes, you are already meeting that from presence as the real self. What if awakening isn't some mythical, magical state where everything turns to gold when you touch it, but authenticity, showing up for what is, again and again and again? What if it is actual intimacy with everything that's arising for us, a willingness to meet it, even to meet avoidance and resistance when it comes up? What if it is showing up in terms of how we interact with our other human beings when we meet them outside of this beautiful group we have here? I'm willing to make eye contact with someone instead of looking at the ground as I walk past so I don't have to talk to them because I'm terrified and feel ashamed. Can I just meet their eyes just once? Maybe even a quick smile. Who knows? Just something. Some human contact. Some basic affirmation of our own existence. And there are so many ways that life forced me to look and see that I was actually succeeding in awakening, just as you are. I mean, now it's obvious to me, right? Now I can see it in myself, and I can definitely see it in you. But only because I had to turn around this habit of being so blind. I was so determined that I was the only one on this entire planet that was never going to wake up to the truth. That probably sounds familiar to you, right? And a little melodramatic, because I was sometimes melodramatic. So will we turn to what? Will we see what is already happening? Strangely, we might be the ones that see ourselves the least. We could ask anyone else in this Sangha to look at you and see what you're like. They'd have a very different opinion about you than you do. I would have a very different opinion about you than you would. And will you see that for yourself? Are you seeing that